Derek Carr. He passed for 4,804 yards, 23 touchdowns, 14 INTs, and he had 256.96 fantasy points. That's not a bad year. Carr posted career-high marks in pass attempts, completions, and yards last season, finishing top 5 in all 3 categories, and yet he still failed to post his first ever top 10 fantasy campaign. One reason is that Carr does not rush. He's a true drop-back passer. Carr has never rushed for more than 140 yards in a single season and has 6 rushing TDs in 8 years. But the real concern and reason he's never broken the top 10 is his lack of touchdown production. That being said, the good news is that he enters the 2022 season with the best supporting cast of his career. Las Vegas acquired Davante Adams as running mate for Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow and Josh Jacobs. Carr now has all the components in place to finally be a top 10 fantasy QB1. His touchdown production should increase incredibly, and Josh McDaniels' scheme could really help with that improvement. Davante Adams is a nightmare for defenses, and his presence should open everything up for Waller, Renfrow, and Carr. Carr has been a very solid quarterback over the past 5 seasons, passing for more than 4,000 yards in each of them. This is the year that Carr will finally become a top 10 QB1 and possibly top 5 QB1. I've seen Carr drafted in the 15th round or not drafted at all. The fantasy spin on Carr is that he should be considered a high-end QB2 with top 10 QB1 upside and great late-round value. Matthew Stafford. Now, Matthew Stafford had 4,886 yards, 41 touchdowns, 17 INTs, and he had 329.74 fantasy points last year. That's a pretty good year. He was QB6 and finished no lower than 8th in pass attempts, completions, yards, TDs, and yards per attempt. He was 11th in fantasy football points per game. And it can't be ignored that he's not a rusher. His last rushing TD came in 2016. He also had an elbow issue this summer, but they seem to have that under control. That all being said, Stafford operates in Sean McVay's pass-heavy scheme and has a good supporting cast led by Cooper Kupp and now Allen Robinson II. In a recent draft of mine, Stafford went in the 15th round. If you choose to wait on the quarterback position until the later rounds, Stafford could be a perfect fit for you. If you draft either Kupp or Robinson II, Stafford would make a great late-round QB1 stack. There's nothing for us to expect a steep decline in Stafford's numbers this season. The addition of Allen Robinson II gives Stafford another weapon, and with so much attention to Cooper Kupp, look for Robinson to have a bounce-back year. The fantasy spin on Stafford is this. Stafford has great draft value with top 10 QB1 upside. If you pick him up in the 12th round or later, you're getting an absolute steal. Russell Wilson, quarterback 15. He had 3,113 yards, 25 touchdowns, 6 INTs, and scored 242.82 fantasy points last year. He was traded to Denver after 10 seasons in Seattle. The move came after a down fantasy year for Wilson as a 3-game injury absence ended a streak of 8 straight top 10 fantasy seasons. Wilson still played pretty good when active, finishing as a top 10 fantasy quarterback in 50% of his appearances. Even after missing 3 games, he was still QB 15. Wilson's rushing output was way down last season. He had career low 43 carries and only 183 yards. That being said, Wilson brings an aggressive game to Denver, having finished no lower than 7th in average depth of throw 4 of the 5 last seasons. Wilson is still in his prime at age 33 and has a pretty good supporting cast led by Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, and Javonte Williams. If healthy, Wilson's numbers should increase greatly, and he is projected to score over 300 fantasy points in 2022. Cortland Sutton is coming off of an ACL tear 2 years ago and should be more like his prime self again. Jerry Jeudy is ever improving and when healthy should stretch the field. The running game is solid with Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon. Wilson has everything he needs to get back to his top 10 QB1 position that he is so accustomed to. Fantasy spin on Wilson is this. Wilson is still a QB1 and is an excellent late round pick with great draft value. He's a fine mid-range QB1, but he may be there in rounds 10 through 12. If so, pick him up and you'll have a top 10 QB1 at a bargain price. Kirk Cousins, quarterback 11. He had 4,221 yards, 33 touchdowns, 7 INTs, and scored 334 fantasy points. Cousins has proven to be an ultimate QB2 in recent years, having failed to post a top 10 fantasy campaign since 2017, but also delivering 6 top 12 fantasy QB seasons over the past 7 years. Cousins does his damage with his arm, having finished no lower than 9th in passing TDs each of the last 5 seasons. He's also been top 10 in passing yards 6 of the last 7 seasons. The Minnesota offense will look different with new coach Kevin O'Connell calling the shots, and that should lead to more passing volume for Cousins. At age 34, Cousins is not a rusher, having career high of 179 rushing yards, but he's been playing at a high level for years and averages 1 rushing touchdown a season. With Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Irv Smith, and Dalvin Cook, Cousins is a strong QB2 with great QB1 upside this season. Kevin O'Connell's offense should be just what he needs to finally break into that top 10 QB1 territory. Even with Mike Zimmer as head coach and notorious for his run the ball and play defense approach, Cousins still finished as QB11 last year. With talent like Jefferson, Thielen, and Cook, along with Kevin O'Connell's offense, look for Cousins to excel and finally be a top 10 QB1. Recently, Cousins is either not drafted or drafted in rounds 15 through 16. His fantasy spin is this. Cousins is a great late round value pick with tremendous upside and perfect for bye weeks or as a low end QB1. If you choose to wait until the very late rounds to draft a quarterback, Kirk Cousins is your man. He should give you great value at a very, very low price.